Hello, it's a pleasure for us to be here today on behalf of Bell Media. I'm Alicia Olson-Keating, the Senior Director of the Cross Media Research Team.
Hi, I'm Mike Mohammed, Research Manager on the Cross Media team.
On June 5th, BBM released the Spring Currency PPM for 2014. And this data covers the Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Montreal markets.
Now, in our material today, Alicia and I are going to walk you through the results for each market, then look ahead to some key dates. But first, Alicia would like to walk you through a new PPM data set that was released to the broadcast industry on May the 15th.
Thanks. Yes, that's right. The data set that Mike is referring to is across media data. This is a combined radio and television database that looks at audience delivery in the PPM markets. Now, this is a very exciting breakthrough in Canada, with other countries certain to follow our lead. We are now able to look at radio and television synergies and see how these two mediums work together to reach consumers throughout the week. Now, we thought it could be interesting today to show you the type of analysis that we're able to produce that offers new insights into broadcast media. So it's nice and sunny now, and finally we have blooming spring. And dare I take us back to the month of December in Toronto, when the weather wasn't quite as ideal. So this chart, we're looking at TV and radio consumption during the terrible Toronto ice storm in December. There was a total of 41 millimeters of rain that fell from December 20th to the 22nd. And that was followed by a significant temperature drop that affected 300,000 homes in Toronto. All of the figures shown in our graphs are indices. Now, the dark orange bars represent an average month of viewing and tuning during the holiday season. The yellow bar represents the ice storm days, December 20 to 22, and then the white bar represents the blackout day for many areas within the GTA. So the left side of that graph has benchmark tuning and viewing levels for the 3 time periods for all TV and all radio. We've even looked at viewing levels for all local TV feeds during the time of crisis, and you can see that it only reaches an index of 101. However, look at what happens to the performance of CP24 with an index of 196 on the day of the blackout. The Weather Network and News Talk Radio in Toronto also spiked to well above average indices, showing audience delivery in both media formats during a time of crisis. Look at the combined delivery, so that far right now, of the weather content on television and on radio. An index of 189 is achieved on the blackout day. So this shows that there are really great synergies between radio and television. And this analysis is really just the start of the insights that we at Bell Media want to be able to look at to further develop our products and extend audience deliveries for agencies and clients.
Thanks, Alicia. Great insight. Here are a few noteworthy news events that took place in our measurement window. Of course, these can have an impact on tuning. We had Victoria Day, Mother's Day, and Canadian Music Week. Locally, Rob Ford went into rehab. Vancouver Island was hit by an earthquake, and the start of the Ontario election campaigns. Finally, on the sporting front, we had the NHL and NBA playoffs. Okay, so let's jump into our first market, the market results. We'll start with Vancouver. This is the geographical reference for the Vancouver marketplace. It's the same for all stations. The estimated BBM population for this market is 2.5 million. There are 450 households in the panel, so an average of about 2.5 meters per household. The install target range is 875 to 1440 per week, with a daily sample average of 1139. Now, one station change to note here, CKZZ-FM was rebranded on March 31st. It went from Virgin Radio to Z95.3. There are 19 radio stations reported in the Vancouver marketplace. Now, each station has a format that attracts a particular audience. What you see here is this chart shows segmentation research that plots a station into one of 4 quadrants. Young males in the lower left, older males in the lower right, young females in the top left, and older females on the top right-hand corner of your chart. Now, just a quick reminder, these charts show what the core tuning of a station is. It doesn't mean that a station who sits in a female quadrant does not also reach males. So the average age in Vancouver market is still 43 years old. Now, in our presentation today, we'll be comparing the PPM results that were released on March the 6th, which covered November the 25th to Feb 23rd, to the data set that was released yesterday covering Feb 24th to May 25th. The dark shaded bars throughout our presentation will represent the latest information. So in the Vancouver market, we still have one station reaching in excess of 1 million listeners each week. That station is QMFM, which takes top spot, and they reach 1.2 million listeners. They're followed by The Beat at 879,000 and Z95.3 with 826,000 listeners. This chart shows time spent listening in ppm for the broader universe. That's 12 plus. TSL is expressed in hours tuned per week. So we see once again that news and information stations CBC1 and CKNW lead the way with 7.2 and 6.6 hours per week respectively. They're followed by JRFM and CBC2. And here's what the AMA average minute audience looks like with adults 1849 in Vancouver. So in first place is The Beat with an AMA of 7,300. QMFM drops one place to second with 5,100. And Z95.3 hangs on to third place with 4,900. Let's take a look at the AMA universe with the key buying demo of adults 25-54. The Beat moves up to first place with 7,300 AMA. QMFM is now in second place with 6,200. And Jack FM, they come in third place with an AMA of 5,700. Now this chart looks at the breakfast day part performance. We've used the standard morning time block of 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday to Friday in order to make an apples-to-apples comparison. We're looking at the 18 to 54 demographic, and of course this demo represents about 80 to 85% of all advertising buys in Canada. Now staying in first place is The Beat's John, Holly, and Nira with a 14.8 share. Z95.3's Ruby and Cruz is now in second place with an 11.3 share. And QMFM's Nat and Drew show is in third with a 9.7 share points. And this chart looks at the day performance. We have used a standard time block 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday. So here we see some more changes in rank positions. The Beat, Chris Palliser is now in first place with a 15.3 share. QMFM's Olivia Jones is in second place with a 12.8 share. And Jack FM's Ken Jones, they take third place with a 12.5 share. And finally, let's look at the drive home daypart performance at Vancouver using the standard time block 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday. So leading the way is The Beat's afternoon drive with Remo, and they have an 11.8 share. JRFM's Doc Andrews show stays in second place with an 11.7 share. And Jack FM, they take third place with an 11 share. Alicia will now take you through the Calgary market.
Thanks, Mike. So let's have a look at the results. Here is the geographical reference area for the Calgary market, which has a BBM population of 1.3 million. And there are 400 households in the Calgary sample. And with an average of 2.6 meters per household, the installed target range is 807 to 1,323 per week. The sample average per week is 1,102. And please note, we have a new station in the market that was launched by the Pattison Group, 95.3 The Peak, which is a AAA. The first full measurement for this station will be on the next 13-week release. So there are now 18 uncoded and measured radio stations in Calgary. And again, this chart plots a station based on the core tuning and the age and gender skew of a station. The average age of the listening audience in this market is 39 years old. And this market has many male-oriented stations, so it means that we see just a lot more stations are sort of hovering in those lower two quadrants. And actually, we still see a lot of action in that bottom left quadrant, and this pattern is quite unusual for a Canadian radio market. Looking at the overall radio reach for Calgary stations in ppm, we see that we have 8 stations reaching in excess of 300,000. 2 of these stations are reaching in excess of 400,000 listeners per week. KISS 95.9 and 98.5 Virgin Radio are almost tied with 474,000 and 473,000 listeners respectively. AMP Radio is moved into third place, followed by a threshold of stations that includes XL 103, Cool 96.9 Jack, and Country 105. This chart shows us the time spent listening expressed in hours for the 12 plus demo in the market. So niche formats are leading the way in TSL. CBC1 has maintained the lead with 6.2 hours per week. AM 770 is close behind in second place with 6 hours, and Country 105 has secured third place with 3.8 hours per week, a 7% decline compared to the last book. So we see some increases with Sportsnet Radio Fan 960 and then Funny 1060. We now compare average minute audience, the AMA, between the two surveys for adults 18 to 49. Country 105 has maintained the lead with 3,700 AMA listeners, followed by CJ92 with 2,800. Virgin 98.5 and Jack FM are tied in third place with 2,500. And certain stations have significant increases with AMA listeners on this book. XL and AMP Radio have increases with 2,400 and 2,300, as well as Cool and Sportsnet with 1,700 and 1,500 AMA listeners, respectively. So this is the AMA performance for adults 25 to 54. So similar to 18 to 49, Country 105 has maintained that top spot with 3,500 average minute listeners. XL has a large increase with 2,900 AMA. Jack FM and CJ are tied in third place with 2,800. And again, we see some shifts across the board in station position and in rankings. And now for the breakfast day part. Country 105's The Odd Squad, leading into Scott Phillips, is in first place with an 11.2% share. XL's Don and Joanne have jumped from 6th position to 2nd with 9.4 share points. Jack FM's Matt and Eric in the Morning are tied in 2nd place, also with 9.4 points. And CJ's The Jerry Forbes Show remains in 4th spot with a 9.0% share. And Q107's Jeff and Sarah are down 8.28 with 8.4, while Virgin Radio's Morning Show is up with a 7.8% share. And for the day time block, using the 18 to 54 demographic, there's also been some movement in audiences. Country 105's Scott Phillips, leading into the Road Show, holds onto the top spot with a 12.7% share. XL's Middays with Buzz Bishop jumped from 6th place to 2nd spot with an 11.9% share. And then Jack FM's All Music Day is down to 3rd place with a 10.6. Kiss 95.9 is in 4th place with its Christina Rousel Show, and CJ92's J.D. Lewis, leading into Ride Home with Reaper, stays in 5th place. Lastly, for the drive home day part, Country 105's The Road Show holds on to top spot with a 12.4% share, followed by XL's Afternoon Drive with Bob Steele with 9.6% share. CJ's Ride Home with Reaper jumps with 2 spots to 3rd place with an 8.9%. And Jack FM is up to 4th place with 8.8, while Virgin Radio is in 5th place with 8.7% share. And very lastly, Kiss 95.9's Maz is down from 2nd spot to 6th position with 8.4% share. So that concludes the review of Calgary. Mike.
Thanks, AOK. Here are the results for Edmonton. This is the geographical reference for the Edmonton CMA. The central BBM population for this market is 1.2 million. There are 400 households in the Edmonton panel, so an average of about 2.4 meters per household. The installed target range is 799 to 1329 individuals per week, with a daily sample average of about 1036. So we see that there are 18 ppm encoded and measured stations in the Edmonton marketplace. The average age of the Edmonton radio audience is still 41 years old. And here you'll notice that Cruise FM, they've gotten a slightly more male skew in this survey. As we look at the overall 2+ reach in the ppm world in Edmonton, we see that there are now 8 stations reaching in excess of 300,000 listeners. Now radio still leads with the reach of 467,000 listeners each week. Fresh FM, they move into 2nd spot with 394,000. And they're followed by The Bounce with 380,000 weekly listeners. Now here's a look at TSL in Edmonton for the 12+ universe. 790 CFCW is still in 1st place with 8.7 hours tuned per week. And they're followed by CBC1 and 630 CHED with 5.4 and 4.5 hours per week respectively. Now let's compare the AMA for adults 1849. Now radio, they hold on to their market lead with an AMA of 5,600. In 2nd place is Country 103 with a 3,000 AMA, and Sonic is in 3rd with an AMA of 2,900. Now let's look at the AMA for adults 2554. Now radio is in top spot with an AMA of 4,700. Sonic is now in 2nd place with an AMA of 2,800, and the Bear moves up 1 spot to 3rd with a 2,700 AMA. Now let's take a close look at the ppm rankings for the weekday breakfast day part for the 18 to 54 demo in Edmonton, again using standard time blocks. Now radio's Crash and Mars, they stay in 1st place with a 15.9 share. Sonic's Garner Andrews Show stay in 2nd spot with a 10.8 share. And the Bears' Paul Brown Show is now in 3rd place with a 9.6 share. Now here are the ppm rankings for the daytime block, again using the 18 to 54 demo. First place goes to Now Radio's Adam McHale with a 15.3 share. The Bears' Jessica Jackson is in second place with a 9.7 share. And in third place is Sonic's Rick Lee with a 9.1 share. Now lastly, let's look at the drive home time block at 3p to 7p Monday to Friday. Now Radio stays in top spot with the Rachel Day Show at a 15.7 share. The Bears' Lachlan Cross, they move up to second place with a 9.8 share. And Sonic's Lane Mitchell, they dropped one spot to third with a 9.0 share. Alicia?
Okay, thanks. So here are the results for the Toronto market. This is the geographical reference for the Toronto marketplace. The BBM estimated 2+ population is 5.9 million. And there are 598 households, quite robust, in the Toronto sample. With an average of 2.7 meters per household, the installed target is 1269 to 2130 per week. Now, the average daily installed sample is 1,707. CINA 1650 AM is a new PPM meter station in the Toronto market. They started reporting data the week of March the 31st, 5 weeks after the starting date of this spring survey. So therefore, it is not a complete data set for them. There are now 26 stations in Toronto that are PPM uncoded and reported. The stations in this competitive marketplace, you can see they're very well dispersed across all 4 quadrants. The average age of the listeners in this market has increased to 47 years. The youngest station is Flow 93.5 with an average audience age of 32, and the oldest skewing station remains AM 740 with an average audience age of 74. And there are 3 stations in the PPM world in Toronto who are reaching in excess of 2 million listeners per week, and then another 5 radio stations reaching in excess of 1 million per week. So collectively, that's close to a third of the Toronto stations reaching over 1 million each week. CHFI has the lead, reaching 2.7 million. Next, we have 99 Virgin Radio with just over 2.3 million. Then Chum FM with just under 2.3. Boom 97.3 is in 4th place with 1.7 million listeners each week. Overall, looking at the 12+ average time spent listening weekly, we can see a few shifts have happened in tuning. CBC One has maintained the #1 position with a TSL of 6 hours per week. News Talk 1010 has moved up a position to 2nd place with 5.1 hours. AM 740 is dropping a position to 3rd place with 4.5 hours. Here is the average minute audience for adults 18 to 49. Chum FM and CHFI have remained in the #1 and #2 positions. CHFI did see a decline, however, in their AMA to the tune of 6,400. Boom 97.3 has moved to 3rd place, up 3 ranked positions from the winter release, whereas 99.9 Virgin drops a ranked position to 4th, and 680 News drops from 4th position to 6th, with KISS FM staying at #5. And CHFI had the largest decline, and Boom 97.3 the largest increase in AMA this survey. So the top 3 stations with adults 25 to 54 AMA are CHFI, Chum FM, and Boom 97.3. CHFI and Chum FM are strong, with AMAs of 17.7 and 15.5 respectively. And CHFI and Boom FM are the 2 stations with the largest swings in the AMA, following the same pattern as the adult 18 to 49 demographic. Looking at adults 18 to 54, commercial market share during the breakfast time period, Monday to Friday, 6A to 10A. Roger, Darren, and Marilyn from Chum FM moved back to 1st place with a 16.7% share, followed by Mike and Aaron at CHFI with a 15% share. And Chum FM had a slight decrease while CHFI decreased by 3.7%. The 3rd ranked station is 680 News, losing 2 share points, followed by Q107, which gained 1.2 share points. And we see Boom is in 5th with an increase of 2.3 points. Chum FM's Ingrid Schumacher, leading into Ashley Greco, takes 1st spot again in the day with an 18.1% commercial market share. And CHFI's Michelle Butterly, leading into Darren Osborne, drops to 2nd place with 15.8 share points. And this represents a significant drop of 7.5. And Boom and Virgin lead the next threshold of stations are in the same rank positions as on the winter release. Lastly, for the drive home, Monday to Friday, 3p to 7p with adults 1854. Chum FM's Ashley Greco takes the lead with 14 share points, while CHFI's Darren Osborne is 2nd with 13.8%. And then the next tier of stations is led by KJ on Boom 97.3, up 3 ranked positions, followed by 680 News. And Mike, could you now walk us through the Montreal results?
Absolutely. And okay, here we go. Here is the Montreal Central market, which has a 2+ population of 3.9 million. There are 400 households in both Montreal Anglo and the Franco markets, with a sample average of 1082 and 919 respectively. Now, starting with the big picture, 2+ full coverage weekly reach of the reported stations in the Montreal market. Rhythm FM has a 2.4 million listeners. In a close second place is Rouge FM with 2.2 million. And we have C'est Quoi with 2.1 million weekly listeners. Virgin Radio 98.5 round out our top 5 stations. Now here's a look at the Anglophone radio landscape for this 13-week survey. There are 7 English stations in the Montreal Anglo marketplace. Now let's take a look now at the 2+ weekly reach. Virgin Radio is still in top spot with just over 500,000 listeners. The Beat, they stay in second place with 494,000 listeners, and they're followed by Showm with 350,000 weekly listeners. Now looking at the breakfast day part for the 25-54 demo, we see that Virgin Radio's Freeway and Natasha in the morning, they hold the top spot with a 26.8 share. Showm's Morning Rock with Terry and Heather B, they're in second place with a 23.9 share. And the Beat's Cat Spencer show is now in third place with a 22.6 share. Let's look at the daytime time block for the 25-54 demo. See that Virgin Radio's Andrea Collins show is now in first place with a 28 share. Showm FM moves into second place with a 27.6 share. And the Beat's Workday show drops to third with a 26.4 share. Looking at the drive performance in the Montreal Anglo marketplace, Virgin Radio 96 is in first place with the Mark Bergman show with a 33 share. Showm FM's Afternoons Rock Ride show is in second place with a 19.9 share. The Beats Drive Time show then drops to a close third place with a 19.8 share. Now here's a look at the Francophone radio landscape for this 13-week period. As you can see, there are 10 Franco PPM reported stations. Once again, we see that the older male and younger female quadrants, they're fairly empty. Here's the 2+ overall reach for the Montreal Franco marketplace. We see that there are still 5 stations reaching in excess of 1 million listeners each week. Rhythm FM leads the market with 1.7 million listeners, followed by Rouge FM with 1.6 million. In third spot is 98.5 with 1.4 million. Now let's look at the breakfast day part performance for the 25-54 demo. Leading the way with a 37.4 share is Puski Faciliva with Paul Arcand on 98.5. Energy's Stuck and Joel is now in a tie for second place with Le Matin de Montréal on Rhythm FM, and they each have a 17.3 share. Now let's look at the daytime block for the 25-54 demo. Leading the way is Rhythm au Travail on Rhythm FM with a 30.2 share. In second place is Ma Musique au Travail on Rouge FM with a 24.3 share. And 98.5 comes in third with a 16.2 share. And finally, here's the drive day part for the Montreal Franco marketplace. In first place, we have Mitsu and Sebastien on Rhythm FM with a 25.1 share. 98.5's Montreal Metina is in second place with a 23.2 share. And now in third place is Ma Musique au Travail on Rouge FM with a 17.4 share. That's Montreal. A-OK?
That's great. Thank you. Here are some important dates in our audience measurement schedule as we look ahead. We have the next monthly PPM results out on July 3rd and then again on July the 31st. And Mike and I will see you in September for the next 13-week currency release. Now, if you have any questions or require additional information, you can email info-radioplus@bellmedia.ca, and someone from our wonderful cross-media team will be happy to assist. Today's broadcast and previous recordings are stored at survey.bellmediaradio.ca. Thank you for joining in today. We hope you have a wonderful summer.